Newcomers to astrology flock to planetary yogas like no other factor in astrology, and understandably so. They help us to pick out some simple things in a horoscope at a quick glance. But the problem is people also get disheartened by planetary yogas more so than any other factor, mainly because they don't know how to properly qualify those yogas in order to determine whether the yoga is going to yield its fruits to a high standard or give us just an eensy-beensy little bit. So starting on the 10th of March from 6:30 to 8 p.m. London time, I'm going to be hosting a 44-week webinar event running on consecutive Sundays on how to make planetary yogas work. This will involve some mathematical calculations, which I will teach you, as well as learning many of the best planetary yogas to work with in order to do excellent horoscope interpretation. You can register for this course either by trimester or in payment in full at the link that you're going to see somewhere around the middle of this video. So thank you, and I hope you'll join us. Bye now. And so it is that you find yourself in a situation where you're questioning your decisions. Have the actions that you've taken really been taken with your own best interests at heart? And if they have been taken with your own best interests at heart, are you indeed in a position where you're being selfish in your actions? Should you be making plans that really honor somebody else's needs? Or should you be taking steps that begin to honor more of your own needs? Regardless of what that answer is right now, one thing that you can't ignore is a buildup of pressure within you, perhaps even a buildup of frustration, a certain agreement that you've made. Well, it's not really feeling to you like it's any longer agreeable to you. So you're finding yourself in a position where you're going, do I honor my commitment, or should I be moving in the direction of a new path that seems to be opening its way for me, but I'm perhaps hesitant to start down that road? Your dignity is feeling impacted, and you're beginning to feel like this is the opposite of where your life should be heading at the moment, and you're finding yourself in a position where you're accepting limitations initially because you felt that accepting those limitations were for the sake of the greater good. But now you're beginning to question whether the actions that you've been taking are really for the sake of the greater good. Do you need to be in a position where you're offering support? Or in offering that support, are you placing yourself in a position where you're hindering your capacity to offer support by weakening your own position? It's quite a lot to stomach, and it's quite a lot to go through, and there's some very tense energy moving in the present moment, and it's stirring a lot to the surface. One thing to be clear on is that right now it could very well be that your sense of pride is hindering you from seeing something clearly. You're feeling like your dignity is being impacted by sticking with an agreement that you're beginning to feel somewhat discouraged about or somewhat disheartened about. What's going on is a voice inside of you is dropping you little hints. But you're unsure if that voice is the voice of frustration or if that voice is the voice of inspiration. So here's the answer in a nutshell, if you will. Is that voice that you're questioning the origin of, and as to whether or not it's the voice of frustration or the voice of inspiration, is it telling you that your support is needed, but that you have to kind of create a scenario where it's being given in a manner that's honoring an evolutionary process. What do I mean by an evolutionary process, right? So if you're in a situation where you're giving your support to a situation, you're trying to help a situation, whether that situation involves supporting something that you believe in, supporting another person, or even supporting something in your life that you really have felt in the past that it's something that needs to be supported. Could be any number of things, and of course this depends upon where this is happening in your particular horoscope. For that, you can always schedule an astrological consultation with me. Those are available through the astrological services page of my website, which is linked above. But what you're needing to recognize is that the voice of inspiration will always point you in the direction of doing something in a manner that honors your evolution. Whereas the voice of frustration will tell you sometimes to take radical action. And at the moment, yeah, you do need to be assertive, but you don't need to be over the top, and you don't really necessarily need to go down the unorthodox path at the present moment, right? Something about the situation that you're involved in, it's good for you to be there. It is good for you to be there. It's not so much that you need to radically go, right, okay, well, it's time to overturn the apple cart and toss out all the bad apples, and along with like tons of the other good apples and any other fruit I can think of, right? And it's not time to do that. It's not time to go to extremes. But you've likely been finding yourself doing that over the course of the last several days, haven't you? Right? That's because on one level, you've been repressing that voice that's beginning to point you in a different direction. And you need to no longer repress that voice, but you need to not let it cause you to do crazy things at the moment, because crazy action is not what you need. Instead, what you need to do is you need to think lucidly. You need to be able to think clearly. You need to come up with a win-win situation. And you may not find the perfect scenario in order to do so, but if you try, you can at least begin to find some steps that are moving you in the appropriate direction, one that's been calling to your heart for like the last, few weeks, right? And it's now time, I should say, to begin to start those steps and no longer ignore making progress in that direction. But at the same time, you have to be patient. You have to recognize that you're moving in the appropriate direction. You also have to recognize that it's not, really appropriate in this situation to dishonor the commitment that you've made, nor is it appropriate to not make a sacrifice for the sake of the greater good in the situation that you're involved in. If you look, you can find, as I said before, a win-win situation that begins to shift things in the right direction, step by step. And that begins to both support the growth of something that you really believe in, or someone that you really believe in, and at the same time begins to grow a situation in a manner that gradually begins to feel healthier for you as an individual. You have to make the commitment. It's maybe time to come up with a new arrangement, but an arrangement that honors the spirit of the old one and begins to move in a progressive new way forward. And if you could use a little bit of help with that process, I should mention that I do offer several different levels of astrological service. All of these are available through the astrological services page of my website, as I mentioned before. And if you're interested in scheduling with me, you can do so through the link above. I almost forgot to point. That's going to do it for this look at the full moon in Purva Phalguni Nakshatra, which takes place on the 19th of February 2019. Until next time, please do take the very best care of yourself. Bye now.